I am so excited to share my latest resource, downloadable print your own flashcard decks. These have been created following my many years working with children of all abilities in the clinical setting, and my themed flashcard decks work. The kids love them because they're engaging and they encourage movement, learning, coping skills, and just plain fun. From dinosaurs to Halloween, each deck includes suggested and themed centering techniques, warm-ups, guided meditation, relaxation, yoga-based movement, and games. Each card in the deck includes multiple yoga-based practices to choose from, meaning you can enjoy a different experience each time you play, and there will always be something that's suitable and accessible for the child you are working with or the setting you are working in. These are highly adaptable tools, and they work in the classroom, hospital, office, or home setting. Download and print on card or paper stock of your choice and enjoy creative, adaptable, and accessible adventures for many years to come with children of all abilities and in all settings. I promise you will not regret adding a set of 2 of these to your resource collection. And keep checking in. I have created a lot of these decks over the many years I worked in the clinical setting with children of all abilities, and I'm slowly updating and releasing them to the public so that all children can benefit from these wonderful tools.
Hi, this is Lisa Roberts from Yo-Yo Yoga School, presenting session 16 of Movement, Meditation, and Mindfulness, a training program for pediatric professionals, educators, and parents. Session 16 will be covering developmentally supportive and developmentally appropriate movement, meditation, and mindfulness sessions for the 5 to 8-year-old population. So this is your elementary school age kiddos. In previous webinars, we have discussed developmentally supportive movement, meditation, and mindfulness for the toddler and preschool ages. So now we're moving on to the 5 to 8-year-old. 5 to 8-year-old kiddos, it is very broad. And one note I would like to make before we talk about typical development expectations and milestones for this age range is each child does develop at their own pace. And the 5 to 8-year-old range is rather broad. So you need to be prepared for children who have developed or matured quickly or early, or some who may be a little bit delayed on what is typical. So that is something that you must bear in mind. It is not one size fits all. The speed at which a child develops is, and the pace at which they develop is very subjective. And when you're working with a broader age range, and later in this series, I will be doing a webinar on working with mixed ages and how to plan your sessions so that it is accessible for a broad range. It's definitely something you need to be keeping in mind at the 5 to 8-year-old. That's something you may be offering, may be challenging for some and easy for others, depending on where they're at, which stage they're at in their own personal development. So that's just a little side note, but what is typical of this age? So especially moving on from the preschool and toddler age group, the gross motor skills and fundamental motor skills, so gross and fine motor skills, such as balance, coordination, and just having much more general control over the body has certainly developed and improved. At this age, kiddos have the ability to print and write numbers and letters, which translates into developing the ability to read and write. So a 5-year-old may just be learning that and learning to recognize sight words and letters and numbers, but an 8-year-old is able to read. So we already have a broad range of ability occurring in this age bracket. So just being aware of the age of your children and the stage that they're at. But this is a great age to introduce your alphabet or your number yoga. And I in a previous webinar, I did show those cards. That's something to explore, where you can really support kinesthetic learning and help these children as they're developing these skills. Now, at this age, children are able to really, the communication skills to the point that they think independently, meaning you can have a really a detailed conversation with them. They're processing, they're understanding, they're retaining well, and they're communicating more clearly, and you can understand them. So this is a great age. They can follow instruction and cooperate a lot better, and they can communicate clearly with you what they like, what they don't like, and even in terms of movement, what's working for them and what is not. Now, at this age, they really enjoy team activities, play well with others, but they're still aware of, how can I say this? The awareness of others, so they play well, they're aware of others, whereas in the younger age range, I mentioned in the toddler, they can be a little bit me, that stage. They're really aware of themselves with very little awareness or empathy for others. That starts to develop in this preschool age. And then when we're getting into this age group, 5 to 8, the awareness of others is more in a competitive sense. It's kind of sizing myself up against Sally and like, well, she's better than this at me, or I'm better than her at this. So that's just something to be aware of. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we go into talking about movement, about how to be aware of that sense of competitiveness and try and even it out amongst kids and have them not feel singled out or not feel that they're worse than the other person or better than the other person, that everyone is treated equally in a session, even when you're giving someone a little extra help. And of course, from this and just leading on from this is really starting to develop that self-consciousness and that concern over what the peers think and what they're thinking of the child. So that is all coming into play in terms of the social development at 5 to 8 years. So how do we plan developmentally appropriate and developmentally supportive movement, meditation, and mindfulness sessions for 5 to 8-year-olds? Well, this age has a fabulous imagination. So it's really helpful to get as creative and fun as you can with planning. Now, these kids can also become excitable, especially when you're teaching group, but even one-on-one sometimes, kids who get super excited during our sessions. And you can counter this by offering grounding and centering transitions that tie into the theme. So an example I have here on the screen is child's pose or a breathing technique. So for example, if I was doing a dinosaur themed yoga and I was noticing the arousal levels were increasing and I wanted to teach the children how to take little breaks and center themselves and be in control of their energy levels and excitement level, we would come back to a child's pose and be the dinosaur egg. And then that would hatch, and then we would create the next movement based on the next dinosaur. And then so we're not getting excited again, we'd come back and come into child's pose and ground and recenter before the next movement or breathing or whatever activity it is that relates to the dinosaur is introduced. So you can see how I can use that throughout the session, just coming back to the nest and coming down into child's pose. The session we're going to discuss today, when we could go through a lesson plan, is beach-themed yoga. And in that one, I use a technique called snorkel breath, where we put our snorkel on, we take a breath, and then we go on to explore the next sea creature or sea animal. So you see how you can tie them into the theme, so it's not like a punishment or a boring lecture. It ties into the theme, it ties into the story, but the result is, hey, I'm centering, I'm taking a break in between. Now, you're not actually saying that to the kids. You're just creating it within the story. However, on a subliminal level, subconsciously, the children learn, oh, I can take a break. Oh, it makes sense to take a break. Oh, I can take a breather. or I can stop and center myself before I do this next thing. So it's a wonderful way to teach children that life skill. Now, at this age, in terms of movement, bilateral coordination develops around the age of 5 to 6, give or take, depending on the child. So what do we do to support children, especially if you have a broad age range or even just one-on-one? I like to use, got them here, left and right stickers. So you just either place them on the hands, on the feet. If you're using yoga mats, you can place them on the yoga mat. That's just a nice, subtle way of helping to support the development of these skills. Now, if you're teaching a group, you don't ask who knows the left, right, and who doesn't. That, again, is singling the children out who don't and maybe make them feel a little inferior. So what we do is we put them on everybody's mat or on everybody's hand. Everybody gets a sticker. It doesn't have to be fancy left and right stickers. It could be a smiley face and on one hand, and just say, you have the sticker on your left hand. The other hand, your right hand, has no sticker. And that's how, and you can say sticker hand up and no sticker hand, however you want to lead a cue based on the stickers you're using to indicate which is the left and which is the right. So we want to make sure, again, this is coming back to that thing of having the kids where they maybe start to compare a little with each other and compete and be worried about what others think. That is a good lesson for the left and right, but also involving all children in this session. So everyone gets a turn in the game. Everybody gets a turn at being leader. Anything that you're incorporating, make sure each child gets equal amount of time, or as best you can. You don't have to use a timer or anything like that, but the equal amount of attention and the equal amount of contribution to the session. Minimal verbal instruction and maximum visual instruction. I always say, don't teach, but play. Get in there, get in, swept up with the story with the kids. You're doing it with them, and that will help keep them engaged throughout. You want to remain flexible with your session planning, and we've talked a little bit about this before in previous webinars. I think it was the Essential Elements series in amongst there, and when we talked about structuring movement meditation and mindfulness sessions, you want to allow space and time for the children's interpretations. At this age, as I mentioned, they have great imaginations. They're going to want to pitch in. And I think it's really important to provide children the opportunity to speak, to share, and to allow space for their interpretation. So they may have a different way or want to show a way of doing one of the movements or create something based on whatever theme you're doing. So really allow time for this creativity and this input from the children. And then, of course, seeing where the energy levels are, you may need to switch things around as well. So being flexible and being willing to, hey, everyone's kind of lethargic, or this child, if it's a one-on-one, is a little lethargic. Let's play a game first to build rapport, and then we'll go into the mindfulness and the mindful breathing and the movement adventure. It doesn't always have to be in a strict order. And having the ability to really see what's in front of you, and the ability to let go of your plan and switch it about confidently is really the key to success, to keeping the kids not only engaged, but providing them a really beneficial service through your movement meditation and mindfulness session. You want to start at this age incrementally building on quiet reflection time. So now we can actually build it up to 2 to 5 minutes, encouraging kids to take time to turn inward, to be quiet, to let go, to shut it down. As I always say, it's recharging your iPod or your electronic. And by this age, kids are well aware of what their iPod or their iPod's probably a little dated now. They have much better things, so their smartphone or their iPad or their computer or their tablet or whatever they have. This age, they're typically engaging in those pieces of technology, and they're well aware that the battery can die, and that apps can run really slow and sluggish if they have them all open at once. So it's a really good analogy to use with this age group, that, hey, you've got to turn your electronic device off and charge it every now and then. and you are no different. So that's what this little quiet time is about. And as we've explored before in previous webinars, it doesn't have to be Zen monk meditating on the mountaintop kind of quiet. We can do quiet reflection time through sensory games, sound games, touch games, and there's lots of ways, and we're going to explore some creative storytelling ways today in today's session that are really appropriate for this age range. So 20 to 30 minutes of movement is appropriate for this age. Kids are growing, they're developing. It's so important to keep them moving and build their core strength and help them develop their bilateral coordination and their balance. So movement is really great for this age range. So 20 to 30 minutes. Mindful movement, meditation, and mindfulness games up to 10 minutes. This is great for building social development as well and honing those skills. So games are really important for that. And then 2 to 5 minutes of meditation or quiet time relaxation. So some themes that you can use. I love to engage kids with what they like. So Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, Disney princesses, whatever they like. Tying that in and creating a theme around that will help to engage children. You can also explore general themes such as beach theme, which is the one we're going to do today, or jungle adventure, or park adventure, or I don't know, I'm trying to make some up on the spot. Around the world yoga, or movement, meditation, and mindfulness. Or you can even do something more educational that ties into what they're learning at school. You can do the oceans of the world. You can explore dinosaurs. I've even done like state capitol yoga, and with the election coming up soon, I'm going to dust off an old lesson plan that I made for a child I worked with one-on-one who was obsessed with the presidents. This child knew everything about every president there ever was in the USA. And so I developed for him a movement, meditation, and mindfulness session all around the past presidents. So, and I might even be pulling that one up and sharing that on my Vimeo channel soon. As it gets closer to election time. So this is just fun ways you can there's really no limit to what you can theme your session around other than your own imagination or a child's imagination. If you're stuck for an idea, ask a child, especially this age range. Such fabulous imaginations. They're not afraid to use them. And it's something that you can really tap into to make your sessions not only beneficial, but a whole lot of fun. So we've looked at this introduction before, and this is my basic setting boundaries and setting expectations at the very start of class. Hey, you don't know what you don't know, so we don't set the ground rules from the beginning. There can be some behavior differences to what you expect, for lack of better. So by setting up and telling kids, hey, this is what to expect from the start, this is what I expect, it will ease class management and also just help children understand and be aware of what's coming and what is expected of them during the session. This is to keep them safe. When you're working with groups, is to help with class management. But most importantly, it's really to keep kids safe, to keep them on their own mats, keep them listening to you so that they're aware, especially when we're moving the body, we want to be safe. So you can look at this. I'm not going to do it verbatim today, but basically I'll introduce, hey, in this example, I'm saying, hey, today we're doing yoga. It can be anything. It could be, hey, today we're going to play a beach adventure. Hey, today we're going to do some movement and move around and explore our bodies. We each have our own mat. And unless we're asked to move around as a group or come up and be a leader and demonstrate, we're going to stay on our own mat and enjoy our own space. And you can see me moving my hands because it's so typical of me. I start, as I'm saying it, I'm just indicating, giving that nonverbal cue. This is your mat. And then I'll actually have the kids pat out their mat. Maybe we'll put some imaginary yoga glue on ourselves and then on our mat so that we stay on a mat. We stick the mat down with imaginary yoga glue. And if you don't have a mat, maybe just draw an area or have the children put their arms out and swing. Just make sure they're not touching each other. Great indication I have my own space, which is very important to teach children to be aware of their own space and other people's space and respect that. So it's a great lesson in and of itself. Listen, we're going to listen. How do we listen better? We listen with our ears. And how do we make our ears work better? We don't use this. When this is off, these work better. It's unbelievable, but it actually works. We want our ears to work really well so we can listen carefully and keep ourselves and our friends safe. Usually I will go on to say, we're going to use our mouths maybe to sing some songs or make some sounds or do some breathing, but we're not going to use it for chit chat. And then I bring it all back together. So I do a quick recap. So let's enjoy our own space, listen with our ears, and have fun. Are you ready? Let's go. So this is how you can introduce and set up all the rules. And it's just very important to make this short little recap at the end to summarize and make sure everyone is safe. So again, with this age group, before we go on, even this age, the kids can come in with sunglasses and beads and funny little accessories, little purses. Maybe I've had kids come with their toy airplane or their car, and it's always advisable to have all that stuff moved away from the area and being told, hey, this will be here for you when you get back. Let's just put it down to keep everybody safe, to keep you safe. There's a toy. We don't want the toy to get broken. And just a reminder that there's nothing wrong with having this accessory or this plane. It's amazing. You love it. It's fabulous. But let's put it aside for this so we can just keep everybody safe. And usually kids are okay with that. So let's talk about movement. Let's break down movement for the 5 to 8 year olds and how this yoga-based movement applies to developing 5 to 8 year olds. So bilateral coordination and balance is developing at this age. So if we're introducing more of that, we're helping to support that development. Now, if a child isn't quite there, maybe they're close to the age of 5 as opposed to 8, and they're struggling with it, you don't want to do a lot of bilateral movement or balance that is not supported or not or just way too advanced, because the child is going to become frustrated. You do want to start introducing it though and incrementally building on it as the child is ready or children are ready. Now, if you're teaching a group of a broad age range of 5 to 8, and that's fairly broad, and there are kids at different stages in terms of their coordination and balance skills, offer choices. And again, bringing it back to never singling someone out, saying, well, you can't do this, so you do it this way. And you're really good at this, so you do it this way. I will just say, I'm trying to think of a good example. So trees, if we're doing a tree pose, which is a perfectly great balancing pose, there are stages and modifications where the foot remains tucked. It's hard to demonstrate because I can't show full body today on my camera. But if we have our leg up and the other foot on the ground and the knee bending out. So this is the first. This is terrible. I'm not going to do it that way. I'm just going to talk you through it. So standing in tree, we may be standing on one leg, and instead of lifting the other leg and placing the foot on the inseam of the calf or the thigh, maybe the toes are still on the floor. So it's like a little kickstand. Or maybe that foot is on a block. Or maybe we're standing with our hand intertwined with another tree, our neighbor's tree. And so if I'm teaching a group and I've got a different range, I may show 3 different stages of tree and just say, pick which one works for you, or try which one works for you. And this is where I'll usually introduce my Goldilocks and the 3 bears analogy. Just because you try one doesn't mean you have to stick with it. You may be just like Goldilocks. You may try as one of these different trees I'm showing you, and it may be too hot, or it may be too cold, or it may be just right. So find the one that's just right, the one that's right for you. If kids are really struggling in balance, I will encourage them all to go to the wall, or I will encourage us to join hands and support each other. For example, again, just sticking with the tree balancing posture as an example, we make a forest and we connect and we support each other by intertwining our branches. So there are ways to introduce balance without singling out a child who may be struggling with balance because they're not developmentally there yet. Bilateral movement and coordination. Again, using the left and right stickers, sometimes beyond the left and right stickers, especially when I'm working one-on-one, I'll add a tactile cue by tapping the child as well as I give the instruction. So for example, if we're in a table position and we're about to do what I call stalking tiger or counterbalance with the right arm extended and the left leg extended, I may tap the left leg and the right arm and say, left leg, right arm, lift. Or we do one at a time typically at this age. So I'll be right arm. Okay, keep the right arm there. Now let's lift the left leg. And I will gently tap it as I say it. So this is the advantage of working one-on-one. In a group setting, you'll use the stickers. And if you're moving around the room, of course, you can also gently tap on the child and help them out as they're becoming coordinated. Again, if you go too advanced too quickly with bilateral and balancing, children may, well, first of all, they can fall and hurt themselves, which you do not want. And secondly, they may become frustrated and just not enjoy it. So you want to be aware of where children are at developmentally, meet them there, but offer them enough of a challenge that you're helping to support the development of these skills. So we want to also design our movement sessions to support physical development and posture, which leads me into stretches to counter computer use. And sitting in class at this age, we're in school, kids are using technology at home for pleasure. They're also using computers a lot at school. So we're getting a lot of this starting at this age. And we're still growing, we're still developing. We want to teach children good posture habits. We also want to support as they're growing, as children are growing and developing, we want to support flexibility, strength, core strength. So this is really a wonderful tool. Movement can really combine to support all those things and also teach them very healthy habits. And then finally, movement can help regulate energy levels, get sillies out. Some kids just don't know what to do with their body, and this can lead to what is perceived as negative behavior patterns. And really, we just, a nice set of balanced movement with a variety of sensory input can help the child feel organized throughout the day and be able to be still and be able to focus. But first we need to get that energy out. And some of the movement and the flows that we do in movement, meditation, and mindfulness sessions are just what the doctor ordered to help support children who need that. So showing children, hey, this is how you do it. And having that discussion during and after the movement, and we've talked about this in previous webinars, just encouraging that reflection at the end through conversation, like how do you feel, can really help kids understand that this is something they can take with them and start applying to their lives. So we're planting the seeds here and building those little foundational blocks that children will learn to access these tools outside of the sessions. Now, and this brings to mind a previous webinar, Warming Up, and it's in Essential Elements. It's called Warming Up. I do recommend you go back and take a look at that one, because that shows some warm-up flows that you can teach children, just simple body movements that they can access in the chair in the classroom, through ones that are full body, and they're really, really helpful in helping children manage their arousal levels and getting that energy, giving it an outlet, and helping children feel nice and centered and grounded and relaxed. So meditation, we've talked about movement. Let's talk about meditation for 5 to 8 years old. Quiet reflection time. These kiddos can and have the ability to be still and quiet and learn meditation for 2 to 5 minutes. How? Creative storytelling is the secret for this group. So some examples are Magic Carpet Ride from the book Teach Your Child Meditation. So you can find that one in there. I also have 3 CDs available. 2 of them are guided relaxations and 1 is breathing techniques, all for kids. And No Bones and Jabba the Melt are on Chill 2. But there's tons in here. Ice Cream Milkshake, Brachiosaurus Relax, Superhero, and a ton more. And there's even one for teens and tweens, or a couple actually. color breathing, and iPad reboot and recharge. And there's several more on here. There's 2, 4, 6, 9. I'm sorry, I don't even know what's on my own CD. And then we have chill and breathe, just so you can see the others. And these are all available on Amazon. And they have guided meditations for kids of all ages, which can segue into children learning to do these on their own. So they're wonderful to introduce, or on your own, just create a story. And remember, your delivery is important. Lowering your voice, whispering, just at setting up relaxation. So you can see in the photo, the child has a blanket and a pillow, and we're all comfy and cozy. You would maybe dim the lights and draw the shades and play some gentle music, and really to help support that relaxation and set the children up for success by introducing quiet meditation reflection time. It's so important for everybody, and to teach this skill from a young age is vital. Mindfulness. So we've talked about movement, we've talked about meditation. So what about mindfulness? How do we teach 5 to 8-year-olds to be mindful? Well, we're introducing mindful breathing in our sessions. We're introducing mindful movement, and this is mindfulness. The breath is your superpower. So helping children to understand this is something I have in me, I can access anytime I want to, which is mindful. And starting to introduce at this stage, as we're moving in our movement sessions, starting to introduce the breath and using the breath as a tool to move and stretch safely. And I've had kids who, I see the penny fall, and you see that light bulb moment where they try breathing in a balancing pose because it's challenging, and you can see they're holding their breath, and you give them the cue to breathe, and you promise them it's going to be easier. And I've had kids blurt out, "Oh, it is easier." And it's because it's true. We're not tricking them. We're teaching them valuable tools. So why would we make something like that up? And I like it as a superpower, because it truly is. And it just helps children to understand, hey, I have this special power in me anytime I need to access it. And I like to say that even hard things become easier. They may not be easy, but they become easier and less challenging when we use our superpower. And this is a really valuable lesson for children at any age, but especially at this age, they really start to absorb that like a sponge. So the Holloman sphere this is a recap from Breathing Techniques for Kids. It's a great tool to teach children to access their breath, but at this age to start to show them how we move our body also during movement, that we expand as we breathe in and we soften into our stretch as we breathe out, and just being aware of our breath as we're moving through our movement adventures. So really helping children to coordinate their body movements to their breath is moving mindfully, and we're introducing mindfulness. And this is a great starting point for that, because they learn to move the sphere in sync with their breath, and then from that we progress to moving the body in sync with the breath. Balance challenge, as I just mentioned, and I have lots of conversations with my kids about this. It's like, what's the most important part of standing on one foot? And often they'll think it's their foot. If they've done some PT or done a lot of movement or kids yoga, they may be aware of their core and say, my core, or they may. And I've had a number, you'd be surprised the number of children who are aware of the core and do give me that answer. And when I tell them it's the mind, sometimes we have this mind-blowing moment or another light bulb moment when I teach children breathing mindfully, meditating, so obviously being aware of the body and moving mindfully, even in a balanced posture. We're moving subtly, we're still engaging the body, so it's light and strong. We may be imagining the body expanding even more as we breathe in, and relaxing as we breathe out, and hold in that balance. And then we're using the breath as a meditation tool to keep our mind focused and being truly mindful in body and mind as we're holding balances. And that's the secret to holding balance poses, is to be in control of both the body and the mind. and that is mindfulness. So we're really encouraging that at this stage, and it's also going to help children develop and support the development of their balance skills. And of course, all of the breathing games we've explored in previous webinars, these are all wonderful mindfulness tools, and games are so much fun for this age group. Kids love games, and of course they're getting oodles of benefits while they're playing these games. So let's look at a lesson plan for 5 to 8-year-olds. So up on your screen, I have a beach theme, movement, meditation, and mindfulness plan for 5 to 8-year-olds. And you'll see I have ocean sounds as my playlist. This one you can see on the actual lesson plan, it says mixed age, but really 5 to 8-year-olds. I've had older kids love this theme, so you can definitely do this for 9 to 12-year-olds. They probably, some will enjoy it. So really, and that's what I love about these generic themes. I've done superhero yoga or themed movement, meditation, and mindfulness for much older kids too. So it just depends on it. This older kids may not be so much into Disney princesses, but you can probably get away with a generic theme like beach for older kids as well. But definitely the 5 to 8-year-olds, any of your imaginative, creative ones, they typically will go for. So beach. This one is actually up to 60 minutes, this lesson plan. And you can see as you go through it, there are bits that you can reduce or even remove, and you can shorten it, or you can even make it longer by playing the games longer or doing a longer guided meditation at the end. So you can definitely tweak this. And that's how I make most of my lesson plans. I have this structure, but with the willingness to move it around, with some backup plans from A, having a lot of experience, B, but just being super prepared so I can move it around. I can add things in case the energy level or the mood level that I'm met with is not what I was expecting when I make the plan. And so we're going to start with the introduction. So we introduce the theme, and we introduce any ground rules like we discussed earlier. And then we get started with mindfulness. We're doing sunshine breath. We're creating a sunny day. And that is starting to link movement to breath. So we're getting our mindful breathing and our mindful movement. Then we do a movement warm-up. And you can see it's all centered around the beach. It all fits in with the theme. So even though we're warming up, we're not like, okay, let's warm up first and now we'll go on our adventure. It all ties into the theme. So we're just swept up in this story. We're getting ready to go to the beach. We're setting up our beach. We're setting up at the beach. We're getting our sunscreen on. We're putting our glasses on. We're getting our umbrella up. And then you'll see we've got Let's Explore the Beach in warm-up. And we have a beach-themed warm-up flow. So this is traditionally in yoga called sun salutation. I'm not going to show this today. It is in a previous webinar. I've done an entire webinar in Essential Elements called Warming Up, and I mentioned it a little earlier. And it has these in there. It also demonstrates warm-up flows, breaks them down and discusses them, but then it also demonstrates these creative ones. And the beach one is an example I used in that particular webinar. So I do invite you to go back and check it out. But back to this lesson plan, then we go into the movement adventure. So you can see I've got some core here. So you've got quite a bit of core. We've got some bilateral movement, and we've got some warming up the back and back stretches, and then some grounding standing postures. So we're really warm now, and we've warmed up the core as much as we've warmed up the whole body. We've worked the core, we've stretched the back, we've stretched the whole body. So the whole body is warm. And now we're going into our activity, which is still part of our movement adventure. And this is the snorkeling trip. So we've got a little suggestions here of different sea animals, and you can make cards. I use little foam stickers, and the kids each take a turn. You make sure you have enough for everybody, putting their snorkel on. So this is that recentering, a regrounding technique to manage arousal levels. And in between each sea creature that we've explored, and we make a yoga shape based on, or a yoga based stretch or pose based on, we'll put our snorkel back on, recenter, and go to the next. So that's our game or activity, going on a snorkeling adventure. And it's a surprise. We don't know what we're going to find. I usually use a bucket and hold it out to each kid, and they pull out randomly a sea creature, and then we all make that together. We create the posture or stretch based on that creature, and then we move into the next one putting our snorkel on. And then we have more of the movement adventure. We're done with that. We come back to the sand. And this is where we do some stretches, a couple of little back bends, a little bit of breathing, and some inversions. And we get ready. We're winding down into our relaxation. We do some belly boat breathing in this lesson plan. And in previous meditation, mindfulness, and breathing webinars, we have discussed folding origami. We've discussed incorporating arts and crafts into your session. So this is a craft you could do at the start. This is a craft you could have done a week prior and you have available. Or you can just have some little folded boats in your teaching kit. Really depends on the nature of your teaching. Or, as I mentioned, just starting the session with folding these origami. The focus required and the fine motor skills required are great for this age. And the focus, this is meditation. And then we use that boat on the belly to do belly boat breathing, watching the belly rise and fall with the breath, so slowing the breath down. And then we segue into guided meditation or guided relaxation. And this is where we can do a progressive relaxation technique for 2 to 5 minutes, feeling the sun's warmth, allowing the body to soften. You could do the ice cream milkshake. So that's ice cream melting in the sun and becoming a milkshake. You could just progressively, for a lot of older kids, this is my go-to, but even some of my younger kids like this one where we just play the ocean sounds and they imagine they're on a beach, and I take them on a little journey through their body where they imagine each part just softening and melting in the sun. And again, this is pretty much the same thing when you make an ice cream. It just depends on whether you need to capture that imagination or the kids are turned off or don't want that kind of vision or imaginary visual they would rather just pretend they're at a beach. So again, it's just knowing your audience and adapting it accordingly. I think this age group, though, ice cream melting in the sun, I mean, that's, everybody knows what that looks like. I've even used that for younger kiddos too, because most young children have seen or experienced their ice cream melting, and it's usually not a good experience and certainly one that they remember. So just imagining them ice cream melting in the sun is something that they're able to relate to and can certainly visualize. So that's the session. We've included mindfulness, a movement warm-up, a movement adventure. We've included an activity or game. We've included winding down with some more mindfulness meditation activity. There's even an art crafts activity in here that can be incorporated in the class. And then finally, guided relaxation meditation. And it's balanced out. It's about 10 minutes of the activity or game or more. And you can, if they're having a good time, you can make that larger. You can make that a smaller portion. The warm-up is significant. So it's just a well planned out, well-structured, balanced class. So that's an example of how you plan for 5 to 8-year-olds. Our next session, we will be talking about tweens. That's 9 to 12, actually 9 to 12. And